Welcome to TECHFEST. My name is Dr. Anwar Bashir, and I'm really excited to be sharing this event with you today. So let's get started.
Great, young man, I don't know. It's just the import that I did. That's an AI-generated avatar speaking. So I just spoke the words into it, and it generated. So that's not a camera on me. That's been generated through AI. So as I mentioned, I work part-time at Middlesbrough College, and I'm kind of passionate about STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, maths. And I'm looking around at some of the things that are available for teaching STEM subjects. And I had a bit of a concern, so hopefully I'll go through how I've tried to deal with that concern. I have no special talent. I'm only passionately curious. I love that phrase. It wasn't mine. It's not mine. It's Albert Einstein. And that's where I start from, Albert Einstein. No special talent. I am only passionately curious. And that's what I want kids to have when they're in primary and secondary school. I want them just to be passionately curious. Don't ask anything else. Just do that. And it's about how we can do that, how we can achieve that, how we put that little spark of curiosity into young kids and young minds so that they can re-engage, because a lot of them are disengaged, re-engaged with education and the value of education as well. And they can all do it. Everyone can do it, but you have to have that little spark. So how does that spark work? That's the theme of what I'm going to speak about today. How can we get that spark into youngsters? For me, there's two things, just two things I want to concentrate on. First is to transform the knowledge within teachers. And as I've gone through the project, which you'll hear about in a bit, I found that teachers leave, teachers are taken on when they don't have experience in a particular subject. So there's a whole raft of things that need to be set in place for themselves, for them, so that they can continuously improve. Because if they're continuously changing, how can they continuously improve? It's not really doable. And where do they get the materials from to help them learn? They come from all sorts of different places, and then, somebody will tell them, recommend them do it this way. Somebody else will recommend it. So it's a very difficult field for them to get a handle on it to move forward. So it's about getting some consistency around knowledge transfer into teachers. The second thing I've kind of mentioned already, how do we spark curiosity in youngsters? And the way that I want to achieve that is, first of all, prove it with some STEM kits. So some kits that you can get. And I know you can get lots of science kits, but we'll look at the ones that I've developed and I've pushed out there, and maybe slightly compare them to what teachers actually get. Then I'm going to talk about course delivery and how that courses can actually be delivered in a consistent fashion, so that they can look at something and not be worried, and then they can start to improve it continuously. You'll understand a little bit better as I go through that part of it. And then finally, and I didn't have this in originally, this has just come in the last probably about 10 months, maybe a year. Probably about a year. I suddenly realized how important AI was going to be in moving forward. It's just going to be massive. So, STEM kits, first of all. So we all know that there in STEM, Jamie will testify to this, you'll get Lego kits, you'll get Raspberry Pis, you'll get what are called microbits, and Arduinos and things like that teachers are expected to deliver short classes on. Yeah, maybe a week or two. What's the problem with those? Anybody know what the problem is with those kinds of kits? Anybody used any of those kinds of kits? Yeah?
Yeah, I've used them. It seems to be quite limited of what they can do.
Right. Okay, so did you try and program with them?
Yeah.
Yeah? Brilliant. All right. He's a star. There's other things in terms of the teacher support, in my view. If you put those kits out, you need a lot of support to put them out. and you know the kids have to put them, they have to put them together and stuff like that. So it's quite it's quite an undertaking. You can't just pick something off the shelf, say right, I'm going to teach you that today, and put it in front of kids and say right, just get on with it, right? So that was the first thing that I was looking at, and I'd been working on robotics and doing simplification of you know, how you connect lights up, and how you use Wi-Fi to switch things on and off, the kind of things that are like that you're doing at home now with maybe even you've got Alexa set up with the lights and saying turn the lights off, Alexa, or whatever it is. So those sorts of things, and they work over Wi-Fi. So I was working with Wi-Fi. Can you fetch me that robot at the back? So I developed this robot here, which is based on a microcontroller called a Raspberry Pi. So if you're in STEM and you're teaching in STEM, most teachers will know what a Raspberry Pi is. So I based it on that. And the idea was simple. Switch it on. There's a little switch there. The teachers take it out of the box, they switch it on, and it connects on the Wi-Fi. And then I've gone into the schools in Outward Academy, and that's a long story in itself, but I went to Outward, they were the first ones that allowed me in. I said, just give me one school, and let me try this robot with your pupils. And if it doesn't work, I'll walk away. But if it does, let me go through the academy. And I said, the way, because it's simple, I'll give you the workbooks, I'll give you the robot, and I'll show you how it works. And I put a strategy in there, which was, I'll do it through the enrichment classes. So it's low key, low touch. I'll do it through the enrichment classes, and your teacher will be with me, and they'll see what I'm doing, and then there'll be a knowledge transfer. So you'll get the workbooks, and you'll get the robots. You might have to buy them, but you'll get the robots because they were expensive for me to build. But only buy them if you're happy. You know, there's no pressure, and then we'll do the knowledge transfer. And the idea is that you normally use, you normally teach, maybe you teach the microbit, or you teach the Scratch, or you teach that 6 week of that module. If you do that, we'll see if we can replace it with this. So I went to Acklam first, and I did that, and I've gone through. We'll touch on it a little bit later, but that was the first kit that I did. A simple way of getting them to program and better than they would on screen. You know, they normally just do on-screen programming or learning loops or whatever. This way they're switching on lights, switching on the motors, and learning a lot more and getting engaged. That was the theory. They will get engaged with this better, and you'll get different pupils engaging. The ones that would do it anyway, but the ones that wouldn't normally do. And that's the ones that I'm really interested in, because if we're going to make change, let's be honest, the ones that would do anyway because they're, you know, they're interested, they're not going to be a problem. It's the ones that wouldn't normally be interested that would get engaged. So there'll be a proportion. Might be 2, might be 3, might be 5, however many. I don't mind, as long as I get some of them. Will I get some of them through this? And I did. It was obvious that I did. Kids that wouldn't normally engage with programming were engaging. So I then went on to, I did it again at Acklam. I then went to Bydales. I then went to, anyway, it'll come up and on and bigger also. So KK. So what I was doing was, as I was teaching the robotics, when I did the class, I think it was class 4, before I did the motors, I thought, I'm going to show them how motors actually work. So I did this experiment with some things that I got from China. So in this kit, there's a compass. Now, the first thing that I noticed was a lot of people, when they use a compass, use it wrong. They've got their phone next to it, or some metal, right? It's a magnet, isn't it, on a pivot? When you think about it, it's a magnet on pivot, and it's trying to figure out where the North Pole, magnetic north is, essentially. So it's trying to detect the Earth's magnetic field. So if you have any metal around it or a magnet around it, it's going to give you a false reading. So I've made that clear in the instructions. But here's the killer. experiment 2 is the killer, right? I hope you're. So some magnets, right? Everyone the kids know these magnets. I say, you know what a magnet is, and they say, yeah. And what does it do? It repels and it attracts, yeah. So they already know how that works. And then I say, have you ever made electricity? If I can get you to make electricity in 5 minutes, would that be cool? Would that be something you're interested in? And they're thinking, how can you do that? That's not doable. We work with a few iron filings. We know how that works, but what? What's he talking about? So say, I promise you, set your timers. Within 5 minutes, you're going to be making electricity. They get the magnets, and I say, what you're going to do is you're going to repeat an experiment that was done by Michael Faraday. Who knows Michael Faraday? One or two of them say, but not all of the class know Michael Faraday. And I'm going to repeat his experiment, which is vital for you to be able to charge your phones up the way that you do them nowadays. So now they're getting engaged. Here's what Michael Faraday did. He had to detect. He had to have a detector. So the detector is what this instrument here is what he called the galvanometer. So it's got a G. So I haven't used a voltmeter. I haven't used an ammeter. I've used what's a galvanometer. And I explained to them that all that's in that galvanometer is a coil, copper coil. And by the way, they know that copper is, by that age, when I asked them, they know that copper is a good conductor. So they know something is going on, but they don't quite know what. So they say, oh yeah. I said, there's a copper coil of wire in there with a magnet on it and a pointer. And it has to be a very small thing, and it's very sensitive. And the idea is if that copper coil gets any sort of force onto it, it'll force the magnet to pivot on the pointer, and you'll see the pointer move. So the detector is to see if the pointer will move through any sort of force. And we know that these magnets have force in them. Yeah, that's obvious. They're a magic piece of metal that has a force in it. So Michael Faraday's thinking, can I get that force to transfer into the copper wire and move that detector? Correct? Right. But all he did was, so if you would be so kind of just to put and look at this pointer and just put it inside and just drop it in and leave it. What's happened to the pointer? Nothing. Nothing. But that's what Michael Faraday did. That's what he wrote in his journal. If you look on Wikipedia, it didn't work. The following day, what he did was he took the magnets out of the coil. He'd left them in. If you take the magnet and then just move it in and out, what happens? Moves. It moves the pointer. There's a pointer there and it's moving. What does that mean? What does that mean? There's no batteries in there. What does it mean?
Generating electricity.
Yeah, it's generating electricity. What it's doing is the universe is made out of atoms. Every one of us is made out of millions and millions and billions of atoms. So there's a nucleus with a proton, a neutron, and an electron. 3 that were known about at the time, right? And what I explained to them through a little tickle exercise is that the force in the magnet is transferred only when you move it. So movement has to happen. So you have to give energy to receive the energy through the electron. So and what was then known is that what you're actually moving is the neutron and the proton don't care, but the electron cares, and it gets tickled and it creates that movement. So you're giving energy, but creating energy, and you're creating electricity, right? Now we've got electricity created. The number of kids that are seeing that get a spark out of that experiment is amazing, right? Because it's a physical experiment, and that's where I'm coming from. We have to much more. On-screen learning is kind of like, unless you're doing like physical, what they call subjects that, need you to do physical stuff. If you're doing academic subjects, these are the things that are going to actually ignite and spark curiosity. So then they're curious. Does that make sense? Yeah. Does everybody? Yeah. They have to, right? Because all of a sudden, It's not something on screen. If you said that on screen, they'd go, oh yeah, and go on their phones. Guaranteed. Because they wouldn't understand. It's only through that experiment itself that that spark happens. That's what I'm trying to get across, right? It's because they physically do it. And that kit is relatively cheap, so it's doable. So not only am I doing it, I'm doing it in a doable way. Can it be done? Can it be something every school can afford to do? And if they can, that's going to be an amazing experiment. Now, then I can extend it just with one of these motors. And the company were giving me all sorts of different motors. I said, I want the simplest, cheapest one that you do, because they can see. And then I explained to them that there's engineers that can that took a look at Faraday's experiment and said, okay, why don't we invert it? Instead of putting the coil on the outside and you're putting the magnet on the inside, why don't we put the magnets on the outside? Use some special engineering to put a coil around a spindle, essentially. And if we spin the coil, the same thing should happen, but just the opposite kind of way, creating it, right? So what's happened here is there's another instrument, and you just have to rewire it. I've just pre-wired it here. It's kind of blue Peter style than this one I did earlier. So all we've got is the magnets on the outside and a propeller. So if my good learned friend would just hold that down and just spin the propeller, and what happens? No, what's your point?
Yeah. Moves.
And the other way, spin it the other way. Negative and positive. So there's so much learning that can just, yeah, isn't that cool? Yeah. So much learning, honestly, so much learning can happen about electricity just through doing that. And they see that pointer moves a lot. Yeah. It's not when the ones I was getting with those cheap bar magnets. So when you put them button, you could only barely see it. So I said, no, I want these because I can do something else with them. I can do a levity. I can do this. You know, of all the tricks that they like, right? What they love most is they can take they do this, most of them, right? So all the magnets are connected and they love this one, right? Put that and then it's levitating, right? And they just love it. That one. Okay, so it's just a mess about that one, but I'm going to show them that can be used for other things later on. Thank you so much. Yeah, is that all right? Yeah, a round of applause, please. Thank you. Right. That was the first part, yeah, of the three-part thing that's traversing around this, yeah, this core thing, this simple thing. I haven't made it complicated, have I? Anybody can know. I haven't talked to you to death. I've just said teachers' knowledge transfer and sparking curiosity. Course delivery. So when I delivered the courses, so I had the workbooks and I did the workbooks for the robot. And our Wood Academy use Google Classrooms. So what I was doing was I did the workbooks and I shared the folder where I had the workbooks and said, right, take those workbooks and just put them in your Google Classrooms, right? Does that make sense? So they would then have to do a bit of work putting it into their whatever delivery they wanted to deliver. What I decided to do was, instead of them keep their work to a minimum, right? I thought they'd still have to do some work and they might not. So what I did was I wrote a script in Google Classrooms where the workbooks were. And then I shared the folder and I said, click on this. It's in an Excel spreadsheet, click on this play pointer. What it does is it runs a script and it populates the entire course. And then I thought, hang on a minute. When a new teacher comes into a school, or they're just learning, or a PE teacher's asked to deliver a class, it's a bit of a pain for them. If I can do the same thing and use exactly the same script, but what I'll do is teach computing, which are the ones you would normally default to, do all of the computing courses, others as well, but I was just interested in the computing ones. So year 7, 8, and 9, I didn't touch year 10 and 11 because they're doing their exams, but you could do it for any year. And what I did was I used exactly the same script, just changed the Excel spreadsheet to where all of the resources were. I downloaded all of the resources for year 7, 8, and 9 from Teach Computer. I'm allowed to do it. It's all freely available. But I wanted to, otherwise they would have to do it. Do you see what I mean? But if I did it and put my script behind it, they would just click a button and they would get the contents. Does that make sense? And they would get everything the way that I'd structured it, but then they could restructure it however they wanted to deliver it. Yeah, but it makes it simple. The other thing here, this is really important. The way that I've done it is 3 terms, 3 12-week terms. Term 1, 12 weeks. Term 2, 12 weeks. That's teachers can start sort of saying, "Oh well, we don't do it." It's roughly 12 weeks per. Is that right? 12 weeks per term, and you've got 3 terms roughly. So all of the content goes in term 1, lecture 1, lecture 2, lecture 3, lecture 4, lecture 5, lecture 6. Then it goes the next module, lecture 1, lecture 2, lecture 3 for the 12 weeks. Does that make sense? They get all of the contents. What else I did was, if you download it from the Teach Computing site, you get it as PowerPoint presentations. It's an automatic way that they do it, but Google works on Google Slides. Otherwise, you have to click twice. So I converted everything to Google Slides, so teachers don't have to. So they only click once when they want to do the presentation. Does that make sense? So I've thought about, what I'm trying to say is, I think about every little niggle, every little thing that the teacher might find a bit irritating, and I fix it before they ever get it. So all they do is press the button and they get the content. So are there any questions in that section, which was all to do with delivery, isn't it? It's all to do with how can someone make the content that for the teacher to deliver easy for them to deliver. So I'm going to shut up for a second, but I'm not going to shut up for a second. You'll see what I mean in a minute.
Hi, I am Kathy, and I hope that, like me, you have enjoyed the event so far. Now, here are 3 key questions that I will ask Dr. Bashir to answer. Hi, Dr. Bashir. So what exactly is STEM, and why is it important?
Hi, Kathy. I am glad to hear that you are enjoying the event. To answer your question, STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It's important because it drives innovation, economic growth, and addresses global challenges. STEM education equips students with critical thinking, problem-solving, and technical skills.
What are some recent breakthroughs in STEM fields?
Great question, Kathy. Well, recent breakthroughs include advancements in artificial intelligence, quantum computing, renewable energy technologies, and medical innovations like CRISPR gene editing. These developments are transforming industries and improving lives.
What are some of the challenges faced by STEM professionals today?
Kathy, STEM professionals such as myself face challenges such as keeping up with rapid technological advancements, addressing ethical considerations in technology, and ensuring equitable access to STEM education and careers. Collaboration and continuous learning are key to overcoming these challenges.
Dr. Bashir, thank you so much for those brilliant answers. Now we can open up to the audience, and if you could try and answer their questions, that would be awesome.
Sorry about awesome. But it was awesome. I'm sorry, but that was awesome. It took me, what, an hour or something to do with something called Synthesia. How cool is that? That's where we're headed. I mean, you know, the world is changing. All I did was create the text. They did the avatars. They're working the beta version. The avatar that you saw at the beginning, that's a beta version of just me, my avatar, much younger. But nevertheless, you can see how that could work. And you can kind of see how that could develop into something that could be an on-screen automated way of teaching and teaching subject material as well. Put that alongside the physical kits. You've got I was going to say awesome, a really brilliant way of delivering teaching. And you might think, well, we don't want it to go. It's a bit, you know, I don't care. It's going to happen. It's going to happen whether you like it or not. So you might as well embrace it and find a way to leverage it and use it. So everyone heard of Copilot? Well, most people heard of Copilot, yeah? I think it's brilliant. It's a brilliant name as well, because I feel like it's a Copilot. I actually feel like it's good. When I need to do something, I check something. Who's used it? Yeah. Who loves it? Have you used it as well? All right. So kids are using it. Yeah. What does that all? And what's this human Einstein? Anybody heard of that? I've done that. I did that in 2 days. And go to a website called app.young, like that, young dash, like a minus sign, young-einstein.uk. Just put a query in, ask a question, something that you want to know about, and press enter. So it's very much, you'll get an answer very much like Copilot. Yes? Everyone cool with that, yeah? Did it work? Well, it was when I did the website for selling the science kits, so I'm setting that website up. And then I was adding content to help kids. And you'll see I was trying to write a big page about what magnetism is and, and then it started putting loads and loads of information together. And I thought, how am I going to do this? How is it going to happen that I want to transfer this knowledge? If I transfer it like this, flat text like you normally do, it's gonna be forever. So I need an AI solution. So I started to write this, because then if I, without going into technicalities, if I look at the large language model, whatever, the model that I need to, the database that I need to populate for it to have that interactivity, I could do it that way and it'll be much easier, and I could just put that together. So that's where the idea for this site came from. Now you might say, well, isn't that very similar to Copilot and all the other ones? Well, if you look at them, for example, the one that a lot of education people have looked at, because I talked to them, and they said something called DFID, but DFID is American. When you look at the age range, it's all American age ranges, and I thought, make it relevant to the kids here in the UK, not there. And then you look at some of the others and they get really complicated. The point is, it's that third part of the triangle that I was doing that I've kind of analyzed to say these are the 3 things that are actually very important to deliver the 2 things in the center that I want to do: knowledge transfer and curiosity in kids. The kids give the curiosity. The knowledge transfer happens either through workbooks or more and more through AI, an AI solution. It makes perfect sense. It's a perfect way of delivering all of that. That boy, his comment to his parents sparked me into get my backside up and running and commercialize our product. And that boy is here today because he's been my special guest of honor today, because I'm going to do a little presentation for him. So if his parents and Marcus, if you would be so kind as to come up here. You hold that for a second. So Marcus, this is not exactly the same stuff that I showed on the class, because I've improved it a little bit, but it was because of you and your comments to your parents. And I'd like to present you with a kit. And then I'll do it. Friends, tell all your friends, colleagues, whatever. Great for Easter present, great for multiple buys. Buy more than one, buy 10, buy as many as you can. It's a brilliant kit.